Hi class. I think this is take 57 or 58 or 500 of this video tutorial, so hopefully this one will be successful. It's probably not going to be perfect, but it'll work. So tonight we're going to look at the difference between independent and dependent clauses. I'm really hoping that this video allows us more time in class to practice rather than just learning what it means to be independent and what it means to be dependent, because you'll have already learned it on the video. So the first word we'll look at is independent. I've chosen a picture of Rory on the right hand side doing her chores to help illustrate this word for you. So Rory can vacuum up her crumbs all by herself. The key words all by herself are synonymous, or they mean the same thing as being independent. Rory doesn't rely on me to help her with the vacuum. You can see that she's the only one in the picture. I'm not helping her push the vacuum. I'm not guiding her in any way. She's doing it alone. So again, doesn't rely on me is the same as being independent. So essentially, I could just say that Rory is being independent when she vacuums. This is the same thing as saying you're being an independent reader when you're reading by yourself, or you're being an independent worker when you're not relying on your classmates to help you finish an assignment. So how does this relate to independent clauses in English? It's very much the same thing. You can see Patrick on the right. Patrick has an independent clause above his head. It says, Patrick and SpongeBob are best friends. Independent clauses can stand alone and make sense. That clause above Patrick's head, you understand that. It's pretty simple. They don't rely on anything else to make them a sentence. So again, these aren't relying on extra words or phrases to make them a sentence by themselves. They're independent. So while this particular clause doesn't have any punctuation at the end, it is still technically a complete sentence. So we could add a period to that to make it a declarative sentence, or we can add an exclamation point to make it an exclamatory sentence, or you could even say, Patrick and SpongeBob are best friends, but who would really question that? So what does it mean to be dependent then? It's really the opposite. You can see another picture of Rory, and she and I are pouring a glass of milk. That's my hand on the milk jug, kind of guiding the milk so we don't spill it everywhere. So Rory needs help when pouring milk. Again, two key words, needs help. It relates to being dependent. Rory relies on me to help her pour a glass of milk. When Rory needs milk for dinner or bedtime, she's not going to be able to get it by herself yet. The milk jug's either too heavy, too high up in the refrigerator, or she would spill it. So Rory is dependent on me to pour milk. She needs me. How does that relate to dependent clauses? Well, maybe SpongeBob can help you understand. He has a dependent clause above his head that says, because they have so much fun. Clearly, that clause needs some help. Not just punctuation at the end, it's just not complete enough. We don't have enough information for us to really understand what it means that they have so much fun. Dependent clauses also start with a subordinate conjunction. This will probably have to be a separate video tutorial, but subordinate conjunctions really make a dependent clause, and in this case, the word because is the conjunction. Once you're able to spot subordinate conjunctions, it's really easy to tell the difference between independent and dependent, because independent do not have that subordinate conjunction. And finally, they are just incomplete sentences. Even if I put a period or a question mark or an exclamation point at the end of that, it still wouldn't make it a sentence. So, some key things to remember from those last 4 slides are that independent clauses can work alone, dependent clauses need something extra, but when you put them both together, when you add Patrick to SpongeBob, magic happens, and you end up with a sentence that says, Patrick and SpongeBob are best friends because they have so much fun. And that, my friends, is called a complex sentence. So it's not your average simple sentence, it gets much fancier. So in class, you are going to practice this by getting a card that has a clause written on it. You won't know whether it's an independent clause or a dependent clause. It won't say that. It'll be your job to decide. And we will mix up in the classroom and we will divide ourselves, independent on one side of the room, dependent on the other. You will switch cards with people to practice identifying both of them. And then we will mingle with one another and you will have to find the other half to your complex sentence. So if you start with an independent clause, it'll be your job to find the card that has the dependent clause that goes with it. So hopefully we'll be making some complex sentences by the end of our practice. Well, that's it. So thank you for watching our first tutorial. If you're still a little confused about independent and dependent, it might not hurt to watch it again. So see you tomorrow.